Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World Blitz, and live from the test server, I got some leaks for you. Specifically, in today's video, we have the TS-60. This is the American Tier 8 tank destroyer. It's a premium tank, obviously. We know how wargaming rolls. And it's a very, very strong-looking premium tank. It's also a tank destroyer, which is, quite unique. So let's talk about the vehicle. We're going to be bringing up its armor profile, its statistics, and I'll be telling you how I think the vehicle is going to play when it is eventually released into the game. Let's start off with the looks. Very clearly, this kind of looks like a Chrysler K, which is what I have the tank modeled to. So it only makes sense. I mean, it looks incredibly similar to the Chrysler K, and it obviously looks very American. When it comes to armor, it's also actually quite similar to the Chrysler K. It's very well armored. The first thing we should take a look at is the gun, as this is a tank destroyer, and oh boy does this thing carry a strong gun. Now the Alpha is weird, but the DPM's great. It's got 380 damage per shot, followed by 2,737 DPM. It's also got really good pen. It's got heat with over 320 millimeters of pen. That is crazy. And the standard's about 254. Now this is with Cali. You can actually get the DPM quite a bit higher, up to 2,900 if you end up running gun rammer. So overall, the DPM on this vehicle is really, really solid, and it'll definitely get the job done. Dispersion and aiming time are okay. I wouldn't say they're great, especially because the Alpha is 20 less than your average 120 mil, but it's not terrible. It will get the job done. When it comes to the gun depression, 7 degrees is fine. It'll be plenty to work most ridgelines. It won't be the best, but judging that it is a rear-turreted vehicle, having any gun depression at all is a lot better. So I will take 7 degrees. When it comes to mobility, ooh, yeah, it's not very fast. It goes 29 in a top speed and 12 in reverse. Yeah, you heard that right, 12. That means we're going back to like original E5 reverse and like T95 levels of reverse here. That's not very good. Thankfully, the traverse speed is at least somewhat okay at 33.19 degrees a second, but still, that is quite bad of a top speed and reverse. Now, 30 is not awful, to be fair. Vehicles that feature a top speed of 30 are tanks like the Mutant, which is the M6A21 EXP. And that tank actually isn't that slow. It's just, it doesn't look very fast on top speed. And when we take a look at the armor, you'll see why this tank does not feature the highest top speed. Honestly, it all makes up for it. Here's a weird fact about the TS-60. It only gets 75 degrees to the left and right of turret traverse. Now, to be fair, that's a lot. It's the same as the T-28 prototype. So if you do get the ability to get behind this tank, it will be very easy to take apart. That is what the TS-60 looks like with 227 millimeters of standard penetration. Now you can start to understand why this vehicle may not be very fast, because the armor is incredibly strong. Now, yes, the lower plate is very, very large and very weak, just like a Chrysler K's is, but that does make sense. We can also see it has a hatch on the roof that you can penetrate. This is what the tank looks like with heat. 297 millimeters of heat cannot cut through that upper plate, and this is basically on flat ground. So that is an incredibly strong upper plate. Now, obviously, the turret cheeks are going to be a pen if you over-angle them to the left or the right, but as we can see, directly frontal on, even on flat ground, those turret cheeks are going to be very hard to penetrate. It is incredibly surprising how well armored this vehicle is. So frontally, the TS-60 looks like an absolute beast. Add that onto the fact, as I said before, this thing has 7 degrees of gun depression. Yeah, it's going to be strong. This thing is going to be really, really strong. Not only can we see that the frontal armor of the TS-60 is pretty strong, but now we start to showcase some of the weaknesses, which are the side armor. It only has 90 millimeters of side armor, which is about 10 more than a Kron. Now, sure, the Kron is a tier 10 heavy, but let's be real, it's not a lot of armor. You can see just how easily that is overmatched. Something else I wanted to see was the upper plate aiming heat at it, and yeah, when you are face-hugging this vehicle, if you have an amount of gun depression more than like 6 6 or 7, you'll just be able to go right onto the upper plate. But also face-hugging this tank, you're going to have 3k DPM shooting at you with way more pen. So I don't know if that's always the smartest decision. Now, we can see there are some other weak spots. Underneath the gun mantlet, there is a bar that you can penetrate. Now, I also wanted to see if you could penetrate the roof of the hull, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We're aiming at the engine deck, and as you can see, yes, you can shoot the engine deck if you're looking just slightly above it. Now, the tank is quite tall, and you're probably not going to have too many scenarios where you're able to do that, but still something I thought I would mention. When it comes to the high explosive capabilities, it's actually not bad. We can see that there's a big ol' plow on the back of the tank, and what that means is that if you're trying to HE where you can see the HEable spots are, you're actually going to hit the plow and not damage the tank nearly as much as you would hope. So that's the first thing I should mention. This spot here is actually what it appears to be. I could be wrong, and I'll have to test this when the tank actually gets released, but as of now, that spot right there appears to be cosmetic. I'm not fully sure if that's actually an HEable weak spot. The only HEable weak spot as of now, as we can see, is the corner of the turret, and it's not an easy shot if the tank is fully aiming like this, but if it's aiming at, you know, somebody off to the left or the right, then you will have the opportunity if the turret's turned to possibly shoot at the back of it. Overall, it's not going to be an easy high explosive pen, but this is with an IS-6 after all, so if you're using a tank that features a 150 plus millimeter cannon, yeah, it's probably going to be a heck of a lot easier to penetrate. The weird thing about this vehicle is that it's rear turreted, but it doesn't feature a lot of armor. I like a rear turreted tank, you know, it's a really cool design. It makes a new and diverse gameplay from your normal just front mount turret design. Especially when you create a tank destroyer with a turret and a rear mounted turret. That's super cool, I have to say. But it's going to be a weird tank to work. 90 millimeters of side armor is not awful. It is definitely able to be used in a side scrape, but at the same time, it's not going to be an easy side scrape. If you're up against anything that has high pen and you slightly over angle the tank, they're just going to butter right through your sides. But if you angle the tank correctly, especially because it is such a long vehicle, it should actually be able to get out some decent shells even in side scraping capabilities. Overall, this tank looks really strong right now. It's got gun depression, it's got incredible frontal armor, it's got a gun that, sure, people are going to say, oh, it's only got 380 alpha, but it's got super good pen and super solid DPM. So overall, the tank looks very, very solid to me currently, and I'm excited for this vehicle to come out. Now, unfortunately, I can't do anything further than what I've shown you in today's video, because, as we all know, Wargaming doesn't let me or anybody else test their tanks before they're released. I don't know why. It's really lame, and it would give you guys a better idea on the fullest extent of how this tank would perform, but as of now, this is what we're stuck with, so let's work with what we got. Hopefully, you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this tank in the comments down below if you think it will be too overpowered. But one thing I should add before we end off the video is that statistics are subject to change. If Wargaming thinks this vehicle is performing too well, they can nerf it, and if they think it's underperforming, they can buff it. So always keep that in mind. This is, at the end of the day, testing data that was leaked. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.